Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Really pleased to have this session today. We usually have a number of people joining, and today we have some extra guests joining us based on what you, our participants, said were the key areas that you wanted to explore with people, experienced people, with qualified people, or people who can give you some insight on how to juggle the challenges that you are having in the different areas of life. So inshallah, we'll always start with the intention. We start with remembering that we're doing this for the sake of Allah, and we ask for His blessing. So we'll recite the intention. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم نويت تعلم التعليم وتذكر التذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وثوابه وقربه سبحانه وتعالى. So inshallah, we'll make a start. And today we're talking about mental and emotional health. And just to give some background to those people who've attended for the first time today, these are sessions, these Deen and Dunya sessions are sessions we started in July last year, really as a cry from a couple of parents who indicated that their children had had a chance to learn and memorize Quran, but they were lacking in understanding of the religion. And some of them, mashallah, the muallims and the sheikhs who come home to teach children Quran, they do a brilliant job in teaching the memorization and the recitation and all the things that relate with salah and the rulings that come with that. But sometimes what we're seeing, and it's something that has to be addressed in a different forum, but what we're seeing is that the children that are being taught by the sheikhs, they have a barrier in language where they understand better in English. So it's easy for them to understand when they're being taught to recite the Quran, to memorize this, to memorize that. But when it comes to detailed explanations that relate to why things are done in a particular way, why we do certain things, they were finding they were not quite getting the richness of the religion as they were in getting the Quran from those sheikhs and muallims that come at home. So this was really to hopefully bridge that gap, to see what does our religion say about the different aspects of life. And we did cover back to basics, the religion, what we believe, what are the pillars. And we spent a lot of time just really trying to understand these things. And then we take different themes here and there, but we put it in the context of balancing Deen and Dunya. We have the religion, which is beautiful, it's excellent, it's been perfected by our Lord. And then we have Dunya. Dunya has challenges, and many of our parents, the challenges they faced are not the same ones that we face right now. And so we need to have that gap bridged between what we know of Deen and what then is Dunya. How can we make sure that we traverse through this Dunya in a way that preserves our religion? And it means, if we look at it in that context, it means we cannot just simply look at the rulings that relate to our religion when it comes to prayer, when it comes to fasting and all the other obligations. They are very important, but we then have to bring them back into the context of the life that we lead to make sure that we can incorporate our life into the Deen way of life. So it's not incorporating Deen into our way of life. We incorporate our life into the Deen. And so we need to understand what is our life, what is Dunya, what are the challenges we face, and then how can we make sure that we submit fully to Allah in the best way. So this session is one of many sessions that we have, which takes a time away from the regular classes that we have. And we speak to people who have gone through life ahead of us, experiencing through their professional life or just life experiences, things that they believe we could learn from. Today, inshallah, we have two very interesting guests. I'm really pleased to be introducing them. We have Haj Siraj Njuki, who's a mental health nurse and works in the UK. He was born in Uganda, but has spent a number of years now having made his life in the UK. And his work in mental health brings him into contact with teens, with young people who are facing the challenges of Dunya, if we can put it in that context, facing the challenges of life, and it's affecting them in terms of not having sound mental health. So he will be sharing some of those experiences and giving us guidance and advice on what things we can do and look out for to ensure that we have sound mental health. Then our next guest is Sharifah Namusisi, who's a cognitive behavior therapy practitioner. She's a marriage counselor, a life coach, and offers individual and couples counselling. Now, I think one of the things, one of the questions I'll put to Sister Sharifah first is, what is cognitive behavior therapy? So that is something that she can explain to us. So hopefully we can come out a bit wiser in what we're doing today. So without much hesitation, I'd like to invite Sharifah to tell us about herself. And I think I will just take this screen away so we can actually view the hosts as we interact with them. So just bear with me a moment. I am trying to work out this technology. Oops, I want a big active window. Just bear with me, please. I am struggling with this WhatsApp technology. I'd like to get to the biggest screen first. Okay, so I'm not sure what you can see. Speaker view. Okay, we've got the speaker view, and hopefully you can see the speakers. Okay, this is the best I can do. I've failed to get the view that I wanted to get, so apologies for that. But hopefully we'll get we'll get to see what we can of them. So I'll invite Sister Sharifah first to tell us a little bit about herself and a little bit about what cognitive behavior therapy is. And then inshallah, we'll also have Siraj, who can tell us a bit about himself and the work that he does. Then we'll go into the discussions, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Sharifah Namusisi. I am a mother of 5, and I am a marriage counselor. That's my niche. But as I continued, with marriage counseling, I never understood how people's thoughts were, what inspired them, like what drove people to think the way they do. So that drove me to do more research, and that's how I ended up doing that CBT course, what Madame Sophia is talking about, the cognitive behavioral therapy. So CBT is a concept that, okay, let me put it this way. CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, tells us that our thoughts affect our emotions. And once our emotions are affected, that affects our behavior. That is CBT, that is the concept. So when it comes to our teenagers, it is to help them gain control of their thoughts, challenging the assumptions that they have in their minds, encouraging healthy self-talk. Because if I have affected how you think, if I say you're fat, that is going to affect your thinking. You're going to start to view yourself as, I'm a fat person, I'm not lovable, I'm not, and that's going to affect the way you feel, right? It's definitely going to affect the way now you behave. So with CBT, it kind of helps with effective coping strategies where suitable. We help teenagers or people in general to work on having positive thinking. In return, it will help how they behave and in return, it's going to help how they feel. So that is CBT. It's a therapeutic approach for a number of different mental health disorders like anxiety and depression. So during CBT, your teenager will work on identifying negative thoughts, which can be a challenging process. But that's basically the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I understand it much better. I've seen these words before, but I never quite related to them as you have done. Thank you very much for that. Haj
You're
Siraj.
welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First of all, you excuse me, my voice. I have got flu. It's not COVID. I tested myself twice already. That is reassuring. So if you hear me coughing and sneezing, please bear with me. My name's Manyagange Siraj Njuki. I'm a mental health practitioner, living in UK now for some time. I work across the spectrum of mental health. So you have got your young children, adults, older persons, and with older persons we mean really elderly, you know, your 80s, mostly demented patients. I work in rehab. So basically across all the units in our client groups in mental health. And I've done this for almost 10 years, alhamdulillah. Very, very beneficial. I didn't know. I used to be, I did IT, we used to call it back then computer science. And then I swapped. I didn't know, to be honest, that it will. Sophia, you know me very well. Before it used to be something different, you know, but I had to switch, and alhamdulillah, I've never regretted. It is very, very rewarding because you're helping people. If you see someone coming in unwell and they go back well, that is so rewarding, you know. So that's a bit of me, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum.
Barakallah. Thank you very much for that. So we'll dive right in because we've only got a couple of hours for this. Inshallah, the structure is going to be that we'll take a shared time to the platform. So between Haj Siraj and Sister Sharifah to take to the mic to speak about particular issues. But I think one of the things that Sister Sharifah has already talked about is the importance of mental health. In her introduction as to what CBT is, she talked about the importance of emotional health. So perhaps, Brother Siraj, if you could tell us, why is good mental health important? And then we'll move on to more questions, inshallah.
So I think, first of all, we have to define what is mental health. You have got three words that are used interchangeably. You have got mental health, you have got mental illness, you've got a mental disorder. Mental health is where we have the capacity, full capacity. We're in control of our mental health. Using the color code green, so you have green as your mental health. Then it starts shifting to yellow. That's when you start getting difficulty with your mental health. And then you go to the orange code when now it is getting more difficult. And then the red is where help is needed. So what is mental health? Good mental health is, you know, you are able to cope with your ordinary day-to-day activities without any problem. It is exactly like physical health. Good physical health, you're able to go to work, you're able to go to school as children and so forth. But when you start getting a bit of problem, then this impacts on your life, isn't it? Exactly like physical health. So the difference is not there that much. You know, it's just this is mental and the other one is physical. As a matter of fact, they go hand in hand. Sometimes physical health causes mental health, and mental health sometimes causes physical health. So a good mental health is whereby you are in control of your, day-to-day activities. And then when it gets worse, this is when it becomes an illness, it becomes a disorder, and this is where help is needed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I'll go to Sister Sharifah. We have, and some of the reasons, I said before in the introduction, that we got this request from actually the teens that attend the Sunday sessions that I run, that we listed down the number of areas that they would like support in, and this one came up tops amongst the ones that they wanted to have, because we had a bit of a break in Ramadan where we're focusing on Ibadah and just understanding what Ramadan was all about. And then we revived the sessions where we invite our scholars and experienced people. And this came up tops. And I think in recent months and weeks, we're seeing more stories in the papers, on social media, about people, for example, on the extreme side committing suicide, and it comes out that they had a mental illness that was not properly handled, or people who were suffering from depression, sometimes as young as 6 or 7 years old, anxiety. So these things are appearing more and more in our society. And is it, I'd like to put it to you, is it that they are actually appearing more in the society we live in, or are we just more aware of emotional issues and mental issues? What is your take on this? Because then that, inshallah, can lead to what the discussion is going to be.
Can you kindly repeat the question?
So what, are we just seeing more issues of, more instances of mental health and poor emotional health in society now? Or are we just becoming more aware of them, that they've historically been at levels that we're seeing them, and now we're just more aware of them?
Okay, I will start by telling you about something I watched 3 days ago. Somebody posted a video, and this gentleman was saying, 60 years ago, there was a plane crash, and this girl witnessed her mom's death and her father's death. And we met up with her 30 years later and asked her, sorry about that, how did you cope after your parents' death, after witnessing your parents' death? And this lady said, nothing, I just moved on with my life. And this gentleman who was recording the video went like, yeah, that is how life should be. But some of you go around saying, we need therapy, we need therapy. We don't need therapy, you're weak. You're just weak. If someone can move on with their lives after witnessing their parents' death, and you, who has just witnessed the parents' abuse, you say that you need therapy, you're just weak. So I'm thinking, in my opinion, we are more aware, but mental illness or mental health or emotional health, this has been going on for years. And as adults right now, we are learning that we've learned unhealthy ways from our parents, who learned that from their parents because they didn't know any better. So these things have been happening. It has been going on for years. We are just more aware. That is what I think, that's the saying that keeps going around. We are breaking generational curses, because we are now aware. You grow up with very unhealthy habits and you don't want your child to learn that, because now you're like, oh, I read something on Sharifah's wall that says you should listen to your child. But growing up, our parents would never listen to us. And you're like, okay, so I can listen to my child and actually have a talk with her. Oh, so that's how things should be done. I mean, that's how I would have loved my parents to treat me. So we are more aware now because we read from counselors, we read from blogs, we read from different sources. But this has been going on. Mental health has been an issue since way back.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Brother Siraj?
Um,
In your experience, is it more prevalent now, or are we just more aware of it?
I think it's both. How the awareness definitely is very important. You know, there's back then we didn't have the media presence as we have today. So that brings up, you know, awareness, whether you want it or not, formal or informal. But also we have got a lot of traumas these days compared to back then. You know, as we move into these centuries. People tell you 1980, as a matter of fact, 1800, 1900, and we come to our century. We've lived in 2 centuries, isn't it? But let's talk about the decades. 1980, where I grew up was a bit different from 1990, and there's a lot of atrocities that are going on. There's so we are exposed to so many things, and therefore this all can bring up all these problems. So like I say, it's both there is awareness, but also we are exposed to a lot of trauma.
Okay, thank you for that. Sister Sharifah, so we are, according to Brother Siraj, we're exposed to a lot more trauma now than we were before, perhaps due to intense media activity. Now we have social media. Things that were happening in faraway distant lands would never have affected our parents, if you're listening to the teens listening, they'll never have happened to your grandparents, because they'll never have known them, that there was a child who was being abused in Japan or China by such and such a person. They'll never have known about it. It would have happened, but now we're experiencing a lot more attacks on our visuals of these really distraught and heartbreaking stories. So Sister Sharifah, if you could talk to us, how can we, in the context of society that we're in, how can we maintain sound emotional health? In the introduction, you talked about CBT. How can we start to maintain sound emotional health? And then what are the triggers? We'll move on to the triggers for emotional health afterwards.
Okay, we have teens online listening, right?
Yes, we do.
And parents as well.
That's correct.
Okay. I have teens who come in for counseling, and one thing I have come to realize, I have a teenager myself. You cannot protect your teenager from the outside world, what's happening out there. I've seen parents, I'm one of those, who've restricted phones because of social media. We worry too much what's happening out there. But what we forget is that once our children are away from home, they have friends. They go meet cousins who have phones, cousins who are exposed, and they learn these things. For me, it has been about honesty. To promote sound mental and emotional health with my children, it's been honesty, even with the teens who come in. You can only control so much. As a parent, once you accept that, you will learn that you can sit your teenager down and have a talk with them, a realistic talk with them. You cannot protect them from what happens on Instagram, what happens on Facebook, what happens on Google. You cannot. Like, a child can just go and search something and then start to share it. So for me, it has been about being very open. I have these talks from as early as 10 years old with my children. What can I control? What can't I control? I have a list of the things I can control. I can control what I teach them. I cannot control what they see, but I can control their perspective and the mindset shift that I would want for them to have. So you've seen that people out there, people your age, are smoking. They are drinking. Yes, you've seen that. Is it something that you would want to do? I tell you the benefits, if there are any, and I tell you the disadvantages of drug abuse. I will have these conversations from a very young age, because I cannot control what you will do when you're away from me. But what I can control, what I can do as a parent or as a counselor, is tell you that, look, I'm sorry, you're not missing out on anything. So this is what happens when you smoke. This is what happens when you take drugs. This is what happens when you drink alcohol. That is in my control, to teach, to guide, to let you know what will happen. In my way, this is how I can help a child, by being realistic, by giving them the tools. Because once they're out there, I can't do so much about their emotional, about their mental health. I cannot do so much because they see too much. So for me as a parent or as a counselor, I can only teach them the realistic, because as parents or counselors, we like to teach children things that are unrealistic. In our behaviors, we model unrealistic behaviors. You tell a child, back in the day, back in the day, for us, we didn't do this. Back in the day, so we set our kids up for failure or for disappointment, because they grow up thinking, oh, okay, back in the day, this thing happened, it's happening now. So there's like a lot of curiosity going on. They have so many questions. I want to answer those questions. In my way, this is how I help. This is how I help. So I keep the barriers of communication open. For me, this is one of the ways that I help my children or even my clients who come in to, have or maintain a sound mental and emotional health. Be open, talk to them, be realistic. Don't act like for you, you're perfect, things that should be done like this, or you can control what happens. You really cannot. So for me, it's about honesty, and I talk. I am open to questions. I am open to discussions. In my way, this has helped a lot because I don't want them to get questions answered by other people. I want them to have my version because I feel like my version is the right version.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As we said, we have parents on listening as well. And you touched on something which is absolutely right, that the way we were parented is not the way we are expected to parent in terms of that communication with our parents. We had a generation of our parents, I know, speaking from the parents that we saw around us, was that they didn't really communicate much in terms of emotions and things like that. So what kind of things can you say to a parent who's struggling to pick up these skills of communication, which they didn't learn themselves from their parents? What can you say to them that would help them start the journey of acquiring those communication skills that they need with their children?
Okay. The number one thing I will tell every parent who is listening here is first do a self-check-in, because you are not going to know, because we have some toxic parents on here. God knows I was one. With my first child, I was a toxic parent. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know, because I kind of learned from my parents, other parents that I saw, how things were done. And with my first child, that is how I tried to do things until I realized I don't think this is how I want to raise my child, because this is how I was raised. So as a parent, you need to first do some self-check-in, find out what unhealthy habits that you have that you could be teaching your child. If you can do that and identify what unhealthy habits you have, do the work. Because you can only teach your child to be a healthy human being if you have worked on your unhealthy habits. So that would be the first thing that I would tell you. I don't know if everyone here understands Luganda or we stick to English only, but
Have people
you
who
cannot
understand a couple of words of Luganda you can spice it with Luganda if it brings out your point well.
All right. So parents, you cannot want your child to not do drugs when she or he sees you smoking every now and then, or you bring the alcohol at home. You cannot want your child to end up in an abusive relationship when you as a parent fight in front of your children. You cannot want your child to open up when you as a parent, you use silent treatment as a punishment. You cannot want your child to not be abusive when you are abusive to your husband or when your husband is abusive. So everything that you do rubs off onto them. So this is going to be the first work, like the first set of work that you are going to do as a parent. You want to reach out to your child. You want to bring up a good, healthy human being. It starts with you. That is going to be the first advice. And once you do that, then you are going to treat your child like the way you would want to be treated. When a parent comes in, or a mother or a father comes in for counseling, you can tell they're hurting. They have things that are really weighing so heavy on them, and they're going through a tough time. But for some reason, we don't think our children go through these tough times. We keep going like, please, they've given you food on the table. I'm taking you to a nice school, and you're saying that you're stressed. Why are you stressed? I need you to remember that these are human beings. The pain you feel, they feel. The things you go through, they go through. They might be different because Gononya Center, you have to provide and everything, but they are going through a lot. They are trying to find themselves, trying to fit into society, because society has put a measure of beauty, and some of these kids don't feel like they measure up. So they are going through all of that. Please try to validate your children's feelings. Don't downplay them. Most of us are the ones who are putting our kids into depression. Half of the teenagers who come into counseling are damaged by their parents, not even school, because all the pain that they carry is from home. Growing up, Mami Erangamba, you're fat. Growing up, Mami Erangamba, Odimustiru. Growing up, Mami would compare me to my older sibling. No, your sister is bright. For you, you're dumb. So these kids go into the world thinking that they are dumb, thinking that they don't measure up to the society's beauty standards because their parents call them fat. Thinking, you see, that is where CBT comes in. Your thoughts. So we've already put these negative thoughts in our children's minds, and then we've sent them into the world. So when this kid is picked on at school, or when they feel like they don't fit in and they want to do what the others are doing, they come back home and they're like, okay, now I am not supposed to be here because mommy thinks I'm this, the school won't accept me, my friends won't accept me. These kids get into depression. I don't think you can even imagine what they go through. These are their problems. Do not downplay them. This is how kids commit suicide, because they don't feel accepted at home, they don't feel accepted in school, no one understands them at home, no one understands them at school. Where do you want them to go? So you need to make that space for them. You need to give them that space for them to be able to come to you. That will be all for now. I might continue, I might go on and on and on and on, never stop.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Sharifah, for that. I hope people listening have picked that one up. So we'll move to Brother Siraj. Just tell us, you said in your introduction you've worked in mental health. You had a change in career from a background in IT into mental health work and practice. So tell us some of the things that you've come across. We had an exchange of ideas of what this session was about. So I'm leaving it open to you to now speak to us. As I said, there are teens and parents on here, and it's your chance to speak to us about your experiences and some guidance that you may have for us. Before you do that, please, anyone who's joined us, we're having a session. It's a different session to the ones we usually have. We're talking about having sound mental and emotional health for teens and parents, because it's a joint session because we need to work together to ensure good emotional and mental health. We'll have our guests, Brother Siraj and Sister Sharifah, speak to us, but at the end we'll have 30 minutes of question and answer. But in the meantime, please do type any comments or questions into the chat and we'll take them as they come. But otherwise, we'll also have a Q&A at the end. So Brother Siraj, please.
As for the experience, most of the time, I think because this is targeting our youngsters, let me start with that most, like exactly what Sister Sharifah has said, we have, I'm going to start with CAMS, that's young, that's the place where we take care of young people. These are the problems they tell us. You know, my mom used to do this, my dad used to say this, and it is really, really important. It is really, really important, especially today. You know, it is not like when we were growing up, it's not like when our parents were growing up. Today is different. They have access to all this and that. So we also have, as parents, we also have to move on, yeah, and be on that level of how can we deal with our children in a better way, because there is access to almost everything. So most of them complain about that. Parents not treating them right, and peer pressure, definitely, you know, they start getting into the habit of smoking to cope with the problems that they have. And we will talk about that later. If you want me to, I wanted to do at least like 2-3 minutes, if you don't mind, about drug and alcohol, you know, because it is, if you want, I can even start right now. It is one of the reasons why people's mental health is affected. So we see so many of them, and so they start off with, you know, there's too much stress at home, I can't cope, and when they go out there, someone else listen to them, like exactly what Sister Sharifah said. You know, you are not listening to them, someone else will listen to them, and unfortunately, these are the bad guys. They'll tell them, you know what, don't worry, I have something for you that will help you calm down mechanism. They give them access, they get access to drugs, they get access to alcohol. And it is what we call a revolving door. So basically they go, you help them get better, they go out and they come back, they go out and they come back, because we didn't get it as parents, we didn't get it right in the first time. You want me to continue?
Yes, please do continue.
Yes,
It was
please.
just getting interesting.
Okay, so basically, I think let me go into straight away into substance use and alcohol. Yeah, because these are the two main things that are affecting people's mental health, not just young people, but also adults. We have seen a lot in my workplace, and this is really alarming. It is really alarming. We've seen young children as young as 6, 7 exposed to all these things. With relationship between mental health, alcohol, and drugs. And I want our young listeners, please, to pay attention to this. This is the statistics, and it's not just here in UK, but almost all over the world. Yes, you could argue that Uganda being a country where there's control of this and that, it might not be the same, but it is almost it's the same problem. 30 to 50% of people, I'm going to start with alcohol. Alcohol alone have got a mental health condition. So anyone who drink alcohol is most likely to get this mental health condition. People think that when they drink alcohol, it's going to help them with their problem. Yeah, like we talked about, you think, oh, my mom is getting on my nerve, so if I drink alcohol, this is going to help me feel a bit better. But unfortunately, you might have a few hours of not thinking about it because you are drunk, but the minute you get sober again, it gets worse. It gets worse because alcohol has already affected your mental health. So you start getting lack of motivation, agitation. We see this, how many people who are drunk, how they agitated there, fighting with one another. There's changes in mood, increased stress and anxiety. So all these are statistics, it's not me saying this, but, statistics that I've got from the World Health Organization, making alcohol one of the biggest problem of bringing mental illness to our youngsters and adult at large. So because of alcohol changes in the brain, there's a depletion of chemicals that naturally help reduce anxiety. And as a result, I'm reading this loud so that please you can listen. People who drink alcohol are feeling even more stressed, anxious, and depressed. And they need more alcohol to help cope with these feelings. There's no good in alcohol, that is just alcohol. And I'll go to the drugs themselves. So with drugs, it is also not so different. It's almost the same. Different types of illicit drugs have been said to have a big impact on mental health. And like I said, all this is from the World Health Organization. And if you want, I can share with you later on. Please feel my email with our listeners so that I can share with them this presentation. I wanted to make it a presentation, but unfortunately, in my house, I have a 5-year-old and 3-year-old who took over my computer. So unfortunately, I didn't get the chance. So I had to run away. And as you can see, I'm in a confined place in a car where I'm reading this from. drug, the same as alcohol, can also lead to changes in some of the areas of the brain and leads to conditions such as schizophrenia, anxiety mode, impulse control conditions, changes. So as you can see, the youngsters who are listening, please, drugs, alcohol, keep away from these two. Yes, you can have problems, but there is a better way of coping with these problems rather than using this, we call them primitive coping mechanism. They're not helping you at all. And these are the ones who have a mental illness at the first. But remember, there are those who get mental illness after using drugs. Yeah, so it is not necessary that you have the mental illness that you're going to go for alcohol or you're going to go for drugs. You can be using alcohol, you can be using drugs, and you get mental illness from it. So drugs, alcohol is a no-no, please, is a no-no. There's better way, coping mechanism that Sister Sharifah definitely as a CBT will, has a better way coping mechanism, definitely. She can share with us. But please, no drugs, please, no alcohol. This is very, very paramount. This is on a large scale in Uganda as we speak. I went to Parliament website, and it was very, very alarming how much people have got mental illness because of substance misuse, because of alcohol dependence is very, very alarming. So please, our youngsters, stay away from alcohol. Please, stay away from drugs. There's nothing. It might give you probably a few hours of fun, but it is a killer. It is a killer. Stay away from it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. So you've led us nicely into the next round of discussions, which is around coping. So we do face challenges. Grown-ups and teens face challenges. And how, if a person's been told, okay, stay away from alcohol, and maybe we pray that none of the teens that we're involved with, closely or distantly, have had that thought to veer towards drugs and alcohol, but they then still, alhamdulillah, many of them haven't even veered that way, but they still have problems. They still have things that stress or cause them anxiety. What are the coping mechanisms? I'll take this to Sharifah. Sister Sharifah, please do tell us what coping mechanisms can our young ones use to get through and work through the challenges that they face?
Okay. First of all, I wanted to briefly just go back a bit to Mr. Siraj. He talked about something that was very interesting, that parents ignore or think it's not happening. Kids are watching, right? They're watching. I know you think they're not, but they are. From as young as 3, children are watching. One day I saw my 3-year-old doing this, imitating, a cigarette. And he's like, 3 years. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh no, I saw Uncle so-and-so doing it. I'm like, oh my God, kids are watching. So when we parents shield them, because we're like, they don't understand, they don't see, they can't do it. I've not seen them doing it, they're doing it. There is a 13-year-old I know who told me that, Sharifah, when we have therapy, it works. Now, I feel good when I talk to you, but when I go home and I see everything that's happening between everyone in the house, weed is what helps me. When I smoke weed, I forget. I sleep like 13 good hours. I'm good. This is a 13-year-old. They are doing things you think they don't know. They are doing things you think they don't know. And this takes me now to the coping mechanisms. As a person, everyone has things they like to do. they like to do that makes them feel alive. That takes us back to the hormones that Mr. Siraj was talking about. Everyone has hormones, and there is one specific hormone that's called the dopamine, the feel-good chemical. It comes like the way you explained, when you drink alcohol, it feels good. So you want more. This is how people get addicted. So same thing with weed and all the drugs. When you take that drug, it makes you feel good. It gives you the heights. So you get addicted to it. You always want to feel good. So that is a very unhealthy way of coping, obviously. So you want to teach your children a healthy way of coping. What other stuff is out there that can give you the same feeling? Well, for me, it is exercising. Okay, not exercising because it's a bit hard, but I like to go for Zumba dance. So when I go for Zumba dance, it gives me the same feel-good chemical. I don't need to drink to feel hyper. When I'm out there, people go like, Hajat has natural heights. That's what my friends call it. I have natural heights because going for Zumba dance gives me the same feel-good chemical an alcoholic will get when they drink. So this is a healthy way of coping. If I'm having a bad day, I'll go for Zumba and I'll come back feeling refreshed. I'll come back feeling really good. So we need to teach our children or even sit down with them. Try to, dissect everything. What makes you feel good? What do you like to do? You'll be surprised. Your children like swimming. Your children like to play basketball. Your children want to play chess. Your children want to go outing. They want to be going to the beach. There are other things that children can do to cope in a healthy way. You just need to listen. You just need to talk to them and find out what it is they could do. Because the list is limited for the unhealthy way of coping. It's drugs, drinking, smoking, injections. So if they can't do that, what else can give them that feel-good chemical, that rewarding that they are seeking for so deeply? A child doesn't have to take weed to forget their problems. They need to talk about these problems. Talk to them about these problems. Why are they happening? How can you help them? How can you support them? This is how you help these children. There is no better way. Talk to them, find out what they need from you as an adult, what kind of support they need from you as an adult, give it. And then find hobbies. There are so many things you can do. You're not, some of the teenagers right now feel like they're missing out just because they're not going clubbing, maybe like their friends, just because they're not doing what their friends are doing. My dears, I want to tell you that you are not missing out on anything. You're not missing out because, what does drinking alcohol or taking drugs give you in the end? I'm sure you've seen what happens. Therapy. You've seen what happened. People are in Butabika, the mental health hospitals. That is what you're missing out on. You're not missing out on anything important. That is what you're missing out on. You're missing out on being drug addicts. You're missing out on, funny deaths. You're missing out on being in rehab. That is what you're missing out on. So please, no rush. No rush. There are other ways that you can actually have fun as a teenager other than killing yourself so fast like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Sharifah. So, Brother Siraj, what kind of coping mechanisms would you advise? And whilst Brother Siraj is talking to us about coping mechanisms, could our participants do suggest some coping mechanisms? Because some of you as parents, you've spoken to your teens, your parents. I'd like this to be fairly interactive. What kind of coping mechanisms would you suggest for people to try out? Brother Siraj.
So I think first and foremost, when we talk about mental health, you have people who have got mental health problems that are induced by drug and alcohol. So definitely their coping mechanism is very, very simple. You understand? First and foremost, just avoid drinking alcohol because that's why you have the problem in the first place, But when we talk about people who have got mental illness, your anxiety, your depression, your whatever, that is not drug or alcohol induced, yeah? Then there definitely you will need some help, and help definitely go to someone like Sister Sharifah. You will need help. They have definitely, Sister Sharifah is better than me in this. We have got mindfulness, they have got exercise, relaxation, mindfulness, and all that. But what is very, very important for all, I'm not talking this as just a professional, but as a parent myself, what is very, very important from a young age, please let us get our children involved in what they like. If it is halal, definitely haram not. You understand? Take them to exercise, football, for instance. Yeah. Uganda, we grew up, Twasibanga Biai, Paint, people in my age will relate to that. And we played football, and yes, we had our problems, but they were not so much as today, because people have forgotten these activities that don't cost you any money. You understand? Let our kids get involved in exercise in the first place. Yeah, in the first place. But these days, they are not playing this, they are not doing this exercise. All they do is TV, all they do is gadget this, gadget that, that playing games. You don't know what it does to someone's brain. You understand? So coping mechanism, we go back to the what? To the natural way. You understand? Go and do what you enjoy, but there's no way you're going to start it at the age of 15 or 16. So from the young age, let us get them involved. Yes, it might cost you a bit of your time. Like for us here, definitely it even costs money. We have to travel to 15-mile radius, taking them to play football or tennis or whatever. But these are what? These are ways that are going to help them if they are feeling low. You understand? But if they are not there, what you're going to get is people isolating them in their rooms, people isolating them in their rooms, and they get worse and worse and worse every day. So coping mechanism, good coping mechanism will be the natural way. What are your hobbies? What are your hobbies? And move on. Use that and move on.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We've had some comments come through, and okay, so I'll just read the comments that came through. We've got one from Yasmin 1J. Thanks for appreciating the session and for inviting the guests to speak to us, sharing their information. And then there's one that says, I'm a parent and we are in competition with peer pressure. We do our best to enlighten and talk to our children. However, when our kids are with their friends, they tend to behave in a way that makes their friends happy or tend to do cool things. For example, having boyfriends at a young age, drinking alcohol, being bullies, and so on and so forth. How do we create a sense of fulfillment in their lives such that they remain true to themselves, regardless of the peer pressure? That's a question, but let me read through the comments first, and then we'll take that question. Then there's one that says, Assalamu alaikum all. There's gadget games addiction today for teens. Communication is good, but what more strategies can parents adopt to balance out these teens? Another question there, which we'll take. And one from Mina says, I think one of the most important things to teach people is spiritually. That when certain things do not go your way, it doesn't mean the Almighty doesn't love you, but these are tests in lives. There is so much comparison, which has led to depression. There is so much lack of gratitude. So if one develops a relationship with God, they would know that some closed doors are answered prayers from the Almighty. That I think we'll try and unpackage that particular one a little bit later. We've got 30 minutes before the open Q&A, but I definitely would like for us to touch on the spirituality, because this is one for our Muslim teens to enable them to balance Deen and Dunya. Then there's one here that says, I think parents should start early on in children's lives, get them involved in activities. This also creates a bond with the child, leading to trust you more. This is something I think, again, it resonates with something that Brother Siraj talked about. Then Abu Mustafa Najib to everyone. Some of the coping mechanisms are getting the young people to be involved in helping others, teach them that it is nice to be part of their own community, and show them how to support them. Also helping them to learn Deen and know the purpose of life and why Allah created them. Again, that's very important now. There's an aspect of being involved in community work. Okay, then there's another one. I suggest parents engage family games with kids whenever they have opportunities and sharing some challenges and how they have coped. That's another coping mechanism that has been proposed. Okay, so we'll go back. Thank you very much for all those comments. Please do keep the comments coming. We will open the floor at about 11:30 in 30 minutes time for a Q&A session. But in the meantime, I'd like to take the question that asked, how do we create a sense of fulfillment in the lives of these teens such that they remain true to themselves regardless of the peer pressure? Sister Sharifah, how would you respond to this? How can we create a sense of fulfillment in the lives of teens?
Okay, so I'll talk about my child freely. He's been to 3 different schools. Let me talk about the second school because he was about 7. He was bullied. They made him eat soap because he was African, right? The other school he's in right now, he feels more accepted. Now, there is a difference in his character. In the school where he used to be bullied, he would come back home and ask me, Mommy, why am I Black? Right? So people that he was with would make him want to fit in because he was Black and the people he was hanging with were not Black. And he started to hate the fact that he was Black. Now, this takes me to, for me, I'm now teaching you from a CBT approach. Our thoughts affect our emotions affect our behavior. Now, let's go back. As an adult, if you're a people pleaser and you're watching, I want you to ask yourself, where does the feeling of people pleasing come from? If you're an adult here and you like to always seek approval, ask yourself, where does that feeling come from? If you are a bully, ask yourself, where does that feeling come from? Where did you learn this behavior? Most of the things that our children are struggling with have come from how they've been treated growing up, either by us in our subconscious or by the people that they are hanging with. So our children want to fit in because maybe they don't feel they're good enough. That is why they would want to hang with a certain group, because they feel like, I need to be part of that group to be something, to feel important, to be beautiful, I must be in that clique. All this comes from the inside. If your child is struggling with self-confidence, self-esteem, they will want to seek that. I want to read that question again because I actually read it while Brother Siraj was while Brother Siraj was teaching, and I was dying to answer it so badly because it resonates so much with what I see happening, even with us as adults.
So the question, how do we create a sense of fulfillment in their lives such that they remain true to themselves regardless of the peer pressure?
Okay, reality. Now for me, as much as I would like to be a counselor, I also want to get out of my counseling suit and look at realistic stuff. Like, I don't want kids to be in a bubble. If my child is Black, I will sit my child down and tell him, look, there is nothing you can do about your skin color. You're Black. Is there anything wrong with me as a person? Like, there's nothing you're going to do about your skin color. It's better you accept it now, because if you do not, guess what? You're always going to feel this way. Do you like the way you feel when people talk to you about your color? No, I don't like the way I feel. So accept it. Once you know something about yourself, they cannot use it against you. That is the first way to approach life. Acceptance. Number 1, please talk to your children to identify the things they're using against them that's making them feel uncomfortable. For example, children, our teenagers these days, they care about their body image. My friend has hips, I don't have hips. Okay, my dear sister, you do not have hips. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Nothing. You're not going to go for hips enlargement. Please accept it. You are not going to die just because you don't have hips and your friends have hips. Like, we need to be very realistic. Make your children feel good in their skins. Validate your children. Make them feel loved. All these things start from home. It starts from a young age. Dads, please compliment your girls, treat them like queens, so that when they're out in the world and someone treats them any different, they're like, oh, no, no, no. My dad taught me better. My dad told me I'm a queen growing up. My mom told me I'm beautiful. I know I'm beautiful. So it starts with us as parents at home. Please, it's not too late. Every day before your child goes out, tell her, you look beautiful today. Because if anyone tells them any different, you've already built a wall there. So it starts with us. You want your child to have a sense of fulfillment, it starts with you. How do you make your child feel about themselves? Because your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotions affect your behavior. So with us parents, we can help our children. You are the only one your child should feel more comfortable with, to come to her like, mommy, my friends made fun of my pimples. Guess what? We can control that. There is medication for pimples, so that we can control. But there are other things that genuinely you cannot control. Me, for example, I am blind in one eye. People have made fun about me growing up, saying I do it because my eyes are always red. This used to make me so self-conscious. Like I would cry. But then my mom would tell me, there is nothing we are going to do about your eyesight. There is nothing. Accept it and own it. So these days, for people who have seen my videos, I'm always wearing sunglasses and people make fun of it. Hey, swag. I'm like, yeah, it's swag. Because guess what? You cannot use that against me. So I am content. I am fulfilled. You can't tell me nothing. So please do this for your children. Build their confidence, build their self-esteem. When they come back from school, the first thing you ask, Salam alaikum, how was your day? Give them a chance to open up. Mommy, ABCD happened. I tell my son, because now he was bullied, he knows the feeling. I told him, you are going to be the person at school who helps the bullied. Every day before he goes out, wallahi, every chance I get, I tell him, when there is someone who is being bullied, what do you do? He's like, I am the one to help the bullied because I know how it feels. So it starts with you as a parent. You want your child to feel good, make them feel good. Ask yourself, why don't you as a parent, have boundaries? It's because you grew up in an environment that did not understand boundaries. That's why you let people come near you, they step on your toes. So it's the same thing you're teaching your child right now. It starts with you.
Thank you very much. We're quickly running out of time. Let me take another question. I think there was one here that talked about what more strategies can parents adopt to balance out these teens. I think this has been covered broadly, but if you still feel that that's a question that you'd like answered, please be prepared to ask it in the Q&A. But from what has been said, it looks like it's been answered. And then there's one thing that we said to talk about here, the spirituality aspect, because we're not talking in a void. We're not talking to people that we don't know. Alhamdulillah, the people who are on here, if not 100%, will be there will be 98 to 99% Muslim. So we have the context of Islam and the fact that Allah has told us that He created life and death to test us. And why is He testing us? To test which one of us will be the best in character, the best in deeds. So putting this into the context of spirituality, the challenges that we face that lead us to issues with handling emotional and mental stresses is very important. So I'll turn to Brother Siraj. What would you say about balancing mental health or sound mental health with spirituality and the teachings of our Creator?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So definitely now I'm going to put on another suit, not from a professional point of view. As you know, for us in the biomedical model, we we don't mention that too much, but definitely there's nothing wrong with using spirituality. You understand? Even from a biomedical model. Having said that, they, for them, everything is measured, as you know. But anyway, my experience as a human being, as a parent, what is very, very important, and this is really, really important, Sister Sharifah, I'm so happy that she's here today because she has made my life very, very easy. I'm just turning to her to, say things that probably I would have struggled to vocalize. She has said this already. It is very important from day one, day one, and to impart this to our children, teach them their religion from day one. You're not gonna think of changing someone who is already 13, 14, 15, and you tell them, you know what, go back to your creator. Impossible. We have to start these things from day one. And she said something very important. Sorry that I have to go back. If you want your children to be nice and well behaved, you have to, touch yourself. Where are you? Where are you? What have you done to yourself? Are you a role model? Are you a role model? So all this, what I'm going to say, are going to be helpful if you start from a young age. So let us teach them that there is a creator who created us, a creator who will test us. Things cannot be smooth all the time. Yeah. And from that, as they can, this is what they call resilience, is built from a young age. So as they go, they grow. This resilience also grow. And if they are into problems, then they go back. They go back to what they've already learned. So from an Islamic point of view, definitely, we turn back to, our Quran and the Sunnah. There's dhikri, there's du'as that we can recite, in certain situations. All this is going to help us with our mental health. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he's going to test us. There is evidence in the Quran and in the Sunnah that mental health is there. So it is not something that we dispute. It is acknowledged. So therefore, we can use our Quran and the Sunnah, the dhikr, to help us overcome this problem.
Thank you very much for that. Just before I go on to the next comment, there was something that came through in the chat, and this was, I think, in response to something that was said a bit earlier on, to say that with trust, a safe space is created where your child can come to you. We need to be truthful with our children as well. When a child makes a mistake, deal with the issue understandably. Respond rather than react to the problem. And so, mashallah. So thank you very much for those comments that are coming through. And there's a question that was sent before this session started. But before I ask that, seeing as we've gone into the realm of spirituality and challenges, I'd like to put a question out to the parents and the teens, everyone on the call today. And the question is this: do you feel that we as parents, or as a community, as a society, are doing the best that we can to introduce the concept of challenges being part of life to our children? And the reason I ask the question is many children and teens, when they face their first challenge, they tend to be shocked. It could be a challenge in whatever way, a bereavement, and of course that is an extreme challenge on one hand, but it could be the loss of friends. When people change schools, so your friends go to another school, you go to another school. Are we doing enough to raise children that realize that challenges are a part of life? Which then takes me to, are we building enough resilience with the children to take them through these challenges? So it's a question that came through. So please do type through in the chat. Sister Sharifah, if you've got a response to that, you may please chime in with that response. Or Brother Siraj, if you've got a response to that. Are we doing enough to introduce the concept that challenges are very much a part of life? And are we doing enough to build resilience in our children? Sister Sharifah.
I feel like some of us, like I mentioned earlier, we think our children are children, so we shield them from too much. So no, I don't think we are doing enough. Does your child know that people leave and your life can still go on when someone has left? I have seen children who have separation anxiety. Like a friend will stop talking to them and the kid will get into depression because we've not prepared our children for moments like, look, one day I will not be here. One day daddy will not be here. One day your friend will outgrow the friendship you have and they will not be here. So do you think your life can go on without them? Yes, it can go on. I'm sorry, I would like to add to, there is a Shakir, she or he, I'm sorry, is she, right? She has said something that's very nice about us creating the safe spaces. It all starts there. But I know they are teenagers, but they are very smart teenagers. These are not the teenagers of 50 years ago. Please talk to these children. Talk to them. Burst that bubble and talk to them as you would a fellow adult. I would like to, I know this is a bit unrelated to the question you've asked, but I didn't want to get off here before saying it. Parents put on this facade that we are perfect, right? And when a child comes to you and she has a bad report, she failed math or biology or science, no mukuba, and you punish them severely. And you start to tell them stories like, back in the day, Nze yalinga first muchibina. Back in the day, Nze ngasobola gwa biology. But this is a lie. We all know many of us here used to fail math. Why don't you use this as a chance to teach? For me, I call them teaching moments, like for a teachable moment. When my son or daughter does something bad, I use that as a chance to make it a teachable moment. So he has failed math. Of course, I'm feeling bad that he has failed math. I used to fail math and I would sit my son down and go like, math is hard, is it? Yeah, mama, math is hard. And I'm like, yeah, I also used to perform badly in math, but guess what? You need to pass math to do ABCD. Sigena Mukuba, because beating is not going to change his, it's not going to change his grades all of a sudden. What is going to change his grades is to make him understand that failing is part of life. I mean, these are things we have no control over. But what do you do after you fail? You get back up. You find out, math, where do you need help? Mami, division is disturbing me. Do you need us to pay for coaching? How can I help you? How can I do this? For me, back in the day when I would fail, my mom would pay for extra classes. It helped me greatly. I used to get 40. Now I got to 70. This is how you help your child. Let's stop putting on this face of, for me, I'm perfect. I have a daughter here who will take 5 days to get Janaba, to start praying again. Me, in my day, you're not praying 5 days, you're not getting Janaba. But ladies, you know that after you're done with your period, there is a disconnect you have with your Lord. You're very lazy to get back into prayer. So what do? You don't punish. Sit your daughter down, explain to them. Same thing happens to me. When I'm done with my period, I have this disconnect, but guess what? You need to pray. Why do we need to pray? Because guess what? In this life, you cannot do anything by yourself. You need Allah. And it also takes me to another point that I've seen in the comments where we start now to teach our children about the relationship with God. Brother Siraj said that whether you like it or not, children go back. I am a living example. Today, I'm with default setting. Wallahi, a child who has grown up seeing the parents doing charity, a child who has grown up seeing mommy praying, daddy praying. Newa to come 15, 16, 18, and they stop praying. At some point, the foundation, if it was built strong, they will go back. They will go back. So you model the behavior you want them to have through what you do. If they're not praying, you pray. Remind. If they're performing badly, advise, pay for coaching. If because you're also not perfect. There are so many times you miss salah. There are times where you go crazy, you get mad, you do this. So I feel like we need to do this by creating a safe space. Safe space. For me, every bad behavior my child has is a teachable moment for me. Your child comes to talk to you about drugs. use it as a teachable moment. I will get the most disturbing pictures on the internet of what happens when you drink, and I will show him, and I'm like, look, here is what happens if you want to drink. Go on. Here is what happens if you want to smoke. This is what happens to your insides. Like, use everything as a teachable moment, because honestly speaking, once your child gets out of the house, you cannot control what they see. You cannot control what they do. You cannot control who they meet. All you can do is pray, guide, remind. And also the foundation in Deen, I know we don't take, because children don't understand. You know, as a teenager, you don't see the value of having a connection with the Lord. You're just a teenager. Osala busazi, you're fasting. But when you grow up, subhanallah, and you realize the most meaningful connection you'll ever have is with your Lord. So please, strengthen the foundation now, and those children will go back to default setting. So about the resilience bit, safe space. Create a safe space where you don't overshield your children, because guess what? You're not going to be there for them every step of the way. You won't. There are times where your child is going to have to do things on their own, university on their own, outside the home on their own. So teach them to be able to bounce back when something happens.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Sister Sharifah. I have a question here that was raised by one of the teens in the class, and it says, what to do in instances when one is constantly being haunted by a memory that keeps on going and resurfacing, and its impact causes stress and dire lack of appetite. Okay, and then they'd also like to know how normal it is for one to keep getting sad imaginations that go to the extent of triggering tears at times when they really want to be happy, or they don't want these sad moments to happen. So it's how to handle, what to do in instances when you keep getting a constant memory, a haunted memory of something that causes stress and lack of appetite.
For starters, have you dealt with this memory, with whatever happened? Have you grieved? Have you sat with your pain? Have you given your chance to feel your feelings? Because this is her trying to heal from something she or he has not dealt with. The first step is, I am glad you've identified that it is a problem, that specific problem. Okay, so now we have the problem right here. Okay, now what are we going to do with this problem? Please sit with it. Let's say my mother died. My mother died when I was 16. I will sit with that feeling. I will think about what could have happened, what she used to do for me, everything, I will think about it. Of course, it will be very painful. I will cry. I will do whatever I need to do to make myself feel better. Cry, pray, read a book, or listen to whatever you need to do. Just feel your feelings and grieve. Once you are done grieving, you need to understand that life has to go on. This is not easy, by the way. It's going to take practice. It's going to take practice, but you cannot, because you hate the feeling. So you need to remember, again, I'm talking from a CBT point of view, that your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotions will affect your behavior. So once you've given yourself time to feel your feelings and grieve, please try to find something that can help you feel better. Also, why would you want to keep thinking about something that makes you sad? You need to heal. Healing is your goal right now. How do you heal? Because we all take time. We all have different time frames in how we heal. Some take months, some take years. So, and I would like to tell you that it gets easier. Back then, when I lost my mom, I cried for like 3 years nonstop. Right now, when I'm praying for her, I won't even shed a tear. It doesn't mean that I don't feel bad. The pain is there, but it doesn't, lead me to cry. So it gets easier, but you need to be intentional about moving past that pain. So for you, your intention of, if you intentionally want to feel that pain, please give yourself that time to actually grieve, feel that pain, and then put that pain on the side and remember that there is more to life than this memory. It's just a memory. It's just a memory. What could have, what used to happen, all that is gone. I would like to tell you that for me, I counsel from a realistic point of view. I don't like to keep people in a bubble. Life has to go on, believe this or not. So find things you can do that can help you take your mind off this terrible memory. Keep yourself busy. And if you know that about the dhikr, I don't know if you know, in the remembrance of Allah, verily hearts find relief. Please, dhikr is the answer. Subhanallah. If you have for me, I usually have that counter for tasbih. It's on my finger 24/7. Every time I have a bad memory in my head, I will let it. I don't ignore it. Don't fight it. Let that memory come. Feel it. Cry about it. Feel that pain in your stomach. Feel your heart sinking in your stomach. Cry. I call it, I time my pain. There is a name for it in CBT. I'm forgetting it. I will give myself 2 minutes to sit down and I think about how maybe something bad happened to me back in the day. And I will think about it and I will cry. I am like, okay, life has to go on now. I mean, I cannot just spend the whole of my day thinking about this. This is the reality. Like, there is nothing else you're going to do about this. Accept it, move forward. Dhikr, istighfar, just keep your tongue moist with istighfar. Pray about this specific memory. I know when you tell people to pray about something, it's like cliche, because everyone goes around going like, just take it, Allah. Wallahi, it works. It works. Get that specific issue that is haunting you. Tell Allah, Allah, I am only human. There are certain things I cannot control. There are things I have no control over. And moving to Allah, we are to work control is our thoughts. That is the one thing that you have control over. So you know that 1 minute you can be thinking about food, and the next minute you're thinking about a swimming pool. So use your mind to actually switch. It's like you put a positive spin on your memory. Okay, mommy died. What happens now? I have to move on. Life goes on. Do I have what I need? Yes. I don't have. Ask for help. You just switch. With time, you keep on practicing this, things will get a little bit easier.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Sister Sharifah. We are approaching our Q&A session. This session will end at 12 o'clock. However, from about 11:30, inshallah, we'll go into a Q&A specific, although some questions have been coming through, but we'll carry on the discussion if the questions don't come through until 12 o'clock, inshallah. It's been very good, actually, having some of those thoughts that have come in from Brother Siraj and Sister Sharifah, as well as the attendees. It helps, inshallah, that seeking counsel and seeking advice from people who know more is a way of us coping. In subhanallah, Allah tells us himself that if you don't know, ask those who know. It doesn't just mean those who know in the context of Quran teaching, those who know in the context of religiosity. It's anyone who knows anything more than you do. And these two people who are guests, our special guests today, know a lot more about this issue that we're talking about of sound mental and emotional health. So barakallahu fikum and jazakumullah khair for having taken the time to attend. It takes 2 hours out of your day on a Sunday, which you are very busy with, but we appreciate it very much. So we've talked about in the flyer that went to introduce this session, we said we're going to talk about sound mental and emotional health, the warning flags. Now, we haven't really talked about this, that there'll be some people who we've talked very generally about the issues that can come from substance abuse or not dealing with painful emotions. But if a person has got something that they feel is not right with their mental health, what are the warning flags that would help them seek for help? Brother Siraj, could you take this one? What are the warning flags that either a person should identify themselves with, or for us to identify when we see these warning flags in others?
Barakallahu fiqh. So basically, it's very, very important to pay attention to sudden changes in our thoughts and behaviors. And like in adults, young people, adolescents, you see someone with excessive fear, for instance, worries and anxieties. There is social withdrawal. Yeah, they will withdraw. We talked about this earlier. There is strong feelings of anger. People are very, very, very angry, and you think to yourself, what is going on here? We talked about the suicidal thoughts, but also there is, and this goes to the extreme end of the mental illness called psychosis, whereby people start hearing things that aren't there. They start hallucinating, and also like even if we say that it bounces to each other, but it is the excessive, not just excessive, but the use of alcohol and drugs. So people tend to go to use this, alcohol or drugs. These are just some of the warning signs. You can't finish them, but these are just some of the warning signs. If you see them, if you know someone and you see them, it is high time they need help. You can help them, or you can help yourself by going to where help is.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So where can people seek help? I know you're in the UK,
yeah,
but
and that's why you see I'm posing, because we call it signposting, but I don't even know where to start, because to be honest.
No, I think you could speak in general terms, and then we can pick up general.
Yes. So basically, like for instance, what
kind of profession? I suppose I can ask, what kind of profession should a person look out for to say, okay, I've got an issue, I've got a teen who's got such an issue, I'm looking for a such and such professional. Would you be able to signpost in that way, at least?
Yes. So basically, like here, we have got what we call hubs. People have got landline numbers they can call if they are failed down. We have what we call GPs, and I'm just laughing because I really don't know how to put it in Uganda. I don't think we use GPs. So they're doctors, general practitioners. Where someone can go for help. We have got community teams, crisis teams. In the Western world, this is so easy to access. But I was watching from a parliament website, and they were saying, and this is very, very alarming, and they said that there is only 13 regional referral hospitals in the whole country. 1, 2, there's only five consultants and 15 just newly the consultants that are being trained. And this is very, very, very alarming. And they said about the GDP of 9.8 that goes to health, only 1% goes to mental health. So you can see that there's work to be done there. But anyway, the thing is, if you are struggling, let's talk to Uganda, because I don't think our listeners are from UK. So if you are struggling, please tell your friend, tell your mom. And this, we go back to this, please. I'm going to emphasize this until the program stop. Please, let us be friends to our children. Let us be friends to our moms and dad. Let them be our first point of contact. That trust has to be there. Because if they're struggling and that trust is not there, believe me, they will not come to you. And we mentioned this already, that this is where they go to the unhealthy coping mechanism. They go to their friends who are going to help them. But it should be you, the parent, your child should come to. It should be you, mom, or if you don't have no parents, at least your friends, you should go to. So if you are feeling unwell, please let someone like that help you. You will get you have got people. I think, to be honest, let me give this to Sister Sharifah, because probably she will know more where to signpost people like this, But what is very important before I hand her over is don't, if you are struggling, don't let it on yourself alone. People are there to help you. And also, if you see a member of your family, a friend who is struggling, please come and help them. I would like to be given a few minutes also to talk about stigma, because this is another reason why people do not access help, because of the negativity that is put towards mental health, you know. But I'll let Sister Sharifah explore more on, you know, what help is there in Uganda, because like I said, in UK here, I can give you like 10 places that you can go to, but it's not going to help you. It's over to you, Sister Sharifah.
Oh, thank you so much, Brother Siraj. Well, I am right here. You could come to me. But lately, like you said, Brother Siraj, the stigma is around, but lately people are actually trying to adopt to counseling, which is a very good thing. Some of us are still behind, but some of us are starting to accept it. If you went on Google right now and type mental health counselors in Uganda, many of them would pop up. And there is one specific one that I swear by, Mind Lab Africa. They're very good with such issues. So please, lately, all you have to do is just Instagram, just go and type mental health counselors, and many of them will pop up and find the right fit, because not all counselors can help you. Just find your right fit. Just that one phone call you make, you know, to make a consultation, it will give you the right vibes you need to know if I can go to this counselor or I cannot go to the counselor. So feel free to actually try to talk to this person before you go there to see if they're the right fit for you. So yeah, that is all I could tell you about the advice that he was telling me to give you. You can find people on the internet, they're all there. If you go on Instagram, there are many there. And I'm here too. Let's Fix It Individual and Couples Counselling.
Thank you very much for that. So it's really not suffering in silence. I think that's the key message, not suffering in silence, and seeking, I would have to add this, to seek Allah's help. That it might be that in Uganda, we haven't got access to all those facilities that Brother Siraj would have mentioned if we were in the UK, but we have the assistance of our Creator, who would never let us suffer. So the first place is we go to these people that we've identified either on the internet or through asking through our networks, and through those, Allah will guide us to those people that can help. Because it's interesting, if we had no help whatsoever, we would have no nations, we'd have no people in what you call the less developed countries, because access to healthcare is not as easy as it is in other places of the world. So there is help that's there. So we shouldn't feel so desolate and isolated that there is no help. There is help. It is perhaps difficult to access, but it is not impossible. So seek out places like the counselors, and then they themselves will have access, and they will know the various escalation points for us. But going on the point of escalation points, now we've talked broadly about people who are feeling a bit down or towards anxiety and depression, but they haven't started to exhibit very concerning mental illness issues such as schizophrenia and the others, which may sometimes then be likened to or taken to be witchcraft manifestations. So Brother Siraj, what would you say about this? When is there, in your experience, when is there a clear line, or when do we take a person who's got mental illness from a mental illness perspective into witchcraft? Are we able to do that at all? Because again, it's very common in our societies for people to jump into that leap, that it is not just a medical issue, it is witchcraft. When and how would we?
Is wallahi very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. But as a starting point, as Muslims and also our other participants who are, from a different faith, they, even with physical health, the Prophet Muhammad treated when a snake bit him. I don't know if you know the story. You understand? And there's a lot of ruqya that is done to people who are suffering physical health problems. So you can see that you can't go wrong with that in the first place. it is always advisable. And like I say, I'm not using my professional quote now. I'm just using the Siraj quote now, that you cannot go wrong with going to a sheikh and pray for you. But please, please, please be mindful that there are symptoms. And when these symptoms shows someone needs professional help from a medical point of view, if someone is so extremely agitated, they need something to calm them down. Yes, they need something to calm them down. I have a lot of friends outside my work who have chosen not to come to hospital, even though they are really mentally unwell, and in my opinion, they needed hospital, but they didn't. They've stayed outside. I have one, Najib, you know Najib very well. He's a good friend of Najib. And this man is only praying and is only doing ruqya to himself. Wallahi, it is so amazing. He has stayed out hospital for a long time. But like I said, every time I meet him, don't go wrong with the Sunnah. It is a very, very thin line. I will not advise someone to say, oh, you know what, this is, because we don't have, unless, like I said, if you have a sheikh here who is qualified, because we also have a lot of sheikh, as we hear them in the news lately, who can do this and that, but, an authentic sheikh who can advise us more on this. But in my opinion, it is a thin line, and for us as lay people, everyday people, it's very, very difficult to distinguish. But like I say, you can't go wrong. If you have a sheikh that you trust, alhamdulillah, bring them. And to be honest, they teach us. It doesn't really need to be a sheikh. You have to teach yourself, how to read ruqya, قل هو الله قل أعوذ بالناس قل أعوذ بالفلق, the last 3 ayahs of Surah Baqarah, Ayat Kursi, you understand? And you can get better if you think that is going to help. Like I say, this young man, I cannot until now believe that he has remained out of hospital just doing that. But answering your question, it is really, really a thin line. It's very, very difficult. There are so many people who have suffered because they thought that it is more, jinn or witchcraft or whatever, and they really suffered to the point of almost no return. So please seek help. There is no, you can mix them. You can mix the medical model where you get your medication, to relax you, because you can't go wrong with lorazepam. This is some of the medication that we use to calm you down. You can't go wrong with propranolol. People who have racing heart, that my heart is racing. This medication is to help you. So it is not bad. Yes, we have got some that really I will not advise, because they are for really the really acute unwell one, your bipolar, the real psychosis, the ones who are responding plus. That's different. But you have got some calming medication that has got less side effect. That definitely, as we all know, each and every medication has got side effect. Even paracetamol has side effects. But the ones that I'm talking about have got less side effects, and they will calm you down. And I've been to sheikhs who are doing ruqya. They've also advised that, before you bring that person to me, can you make sure they are calm enough? So medication to help them calm down has to be used. Answering your question again, it is a thin line. It's very, very difficult. Always seek both if you can, please. Barakallahu fikum.
Just so the listeners and the attendees are aware, the floor is open to questions. You could raise your hand and ask your question in voice and audio, or you could type it in the chat. But as we do wait for some questions, I'll read through some of the chat comments that came through. One person asked whether the recording can be shared. Inshallah, we did say that we're recording this session. We will share the recording in a couple of days, and it will be on our YouTube channel, which is Dawn Awakenings. We'll share the link on the chat, so please take a copy of it. But I think through the channels by which you got message of this session, you could, if you miss it on here, you could ask them to share the link once it's done, because the same will be shared by the channels that disseminated the information. Okay, so that's on the recording. Then we have here again, thank you very much, Abu Mustafa Najib. It's lovely to hear from you, Najib, Alhamdulillah. And here you quoted the verse that Sister Sharifah quoted. Thank you very much for that. And I'll just read it. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alladhina amanu wa tatma'innu qulubuhum bi dhikrillahi. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu qulub. And then it says, those who believe in Allah and whose hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. And making a comment on this particular verse, some people may tend towards depression, or in fact do get into depression once it's gone a long time with no sense of ease in the symptoms or handling the issues. Then some people have said or that it's, especially when Muslims tend towards depression, they get told that they haven't done enough remembrance of Allah, and that's why they've ended up in depression. That could be right, it could be true, but we've also got to appreciate that some people's mental states will go beyond what they can reasonably cope with. But for the one who hasn't ended up in depression and is feeling stressed by particular issues, they feel particularly low about certain issues, and it hasn't tended into a condition that requires medical intervention. It is absolutely one to remember that remembrance of Allah is something that will keep the hearts calm and will even perhaps even distance us from falling into depression as easily as those who don't remember Allah. But obviously it's important to seek that medical assistance where required. And then there's a question here that says from Shadia Namuli, how efficiently can we deal with our personalities like extro and introversion that greatly define our potentials and mannerisms? This is over to you, Sister Sharifah. How do personalities play a role in how we manage the challenges or situations or our potentials?
Hello, I'm just, how efficiently can we deal with our personality? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was trying to read through again. So I'm actually putting out a video very soon about that define us, just that line, characters, or, you know, being an extrovert or introvert defines you. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that our characters, or if I'm an introvert, that defines me. I, growing up, have refused to be put in a box. Like, I have refused, and I hope after you listen to me today, you also refuse to be put in a box. Just because you're an introvert, you cannot do this, or you can do that, or you're an extrovert, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. I feel like this is what society has done to us. Just because I'm like this, I cannot do that. Just because you're like this, you cannot do that. They have kind of defined to us what we should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, where you should go, where you shouldn't know, what you should do. They have set a limit for us. And I would like to tell you that, because clearly this is an issue for you, I mean, asking how to deal with this, I would like to tell you that there are no limits. Don't let anyone define you. Don't let what they call a personal trait or character traits define you, because what that does is limit you. Okay, it's going to just basically teach you that you cannot do a certain thing just because of the way you are. And I greatly disagree. I disagree. I don't think that is how you should be living your life. I feel like you should be open to trying, failing, trying and failing until you get to where you feel like, okay, now I'm good at this, or I want to try this, or I can do this. Don't let people, character, or society, or what they tell you you are define who you are, because I don't disagree. I disagree with that. I don't agree that we are defined by who we are, what we do, or how our personalities are. I don't agree to that. I don't like to be put in a box. And it's a very broad discussion, and we have 10 minutes. So I hope I'll get a chance to share the link of that video once it's out. And inshallah, it will teach you about all of this.
Okay, so thank you for that. I'd like to add perhaps to your comments that whereas we shouldn't put ourselves in, I'll accept to put ourselves in boxes, the way I would approach this question is something from what you've said before in the early comments. It's taking a self-check, understanding maybe calling yourself an extrovert is just part of your identification of who you are, or introvert, part of the identification, but not the definition of who you are. Then it just means that certain things will come easier to you than others, and some things more difficult than others. Then it's asking yourself, how can you achieve what you want to achieve, the potential you want to achieve, given that you have a weakness in such and such, given that you have a strength in such and such. I think it's very important to turn it on its head that way, that I've got these personality traits, I've got those personality traits, those are strengths, these are weaknesses. All of us have got a different range of these strengths and weaknesses. But how do we then not let those weaknesses stop us from achieving what it is that we want to achieve? The mannerisms, if they're good mannerisms, how can we ensure that they propel us forward? And if they're not good mannerisms, how can we make sure that we put them in check at the time that we need to put them in check so that they don't impede our movement forward? But it's a very important one, because we often like to be defined, or we enjoy being defined by whatever society defines us by. So another comment here from Sheila Muumuza, it says, sadly, even parents are going through things. So this is in response to some comments that were made earlier on. So it's hard for some children to go to them. I like that at least of late mental health is being addressed. That yes, there's a higher profile being raised for mental health issues, for mental health, sound mental health, good emotional health. So at least it gives people an avenue to explore solutions to challenges and problems that they may have that otherwise would not have been there if these issues were not being brought to the fore. So we've got just under 10 minutes. If you've got any questions, please raise your hand and ask in voice, or you could type them in the chat. We've just had one. Okay, again from Abu Mustafa Najib. What I learned today is that we should teach our youth and children to be confident and have self-belief so that no one looks down on them, and to know no one should make them that individual is better than them and they can do anything they want to do, no matter what others say about them. Barakallahu feekum to speakers, Mr. Siraj Njuki and Sister Sharifah, for your knowledge shared. We thank the organizers and the host. Jazakumullah khair. Wa iyyakum. So thank you very much for all those who are participating. We've still got just 5 minutes, and I'll go to Brother Siraj, if you could give us, if there's anything that we haven't touched upon that you feel is important to mention, please do go ahead and use a couple of minutes of our final 5 minutes, and then we'll move over to Sharifah. But if anyone's got a question, please do send the questions through. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but we can still take 1 or 2 questions. So Brother Siraj.
So we have got something called stigma. And as we all know, or if we don't know, stigma is when someone sees you in a negative way because of a particular characteristic or attribute, maybe your skin color, your background, disability, or mental illness, as we speak now. So this stigma is everywhere, is everywhere, definitely in third world countries like Uganda. even though Sister Sharifah said that there's awareness now, it is still there, because you can see even in the news when our politicians say certain things and you're like, really? So things like, calling people who have got mental illness crazy, he is not, the media always depicts the villain always as people who have got mental illness. This all does not help. It is very, very harmful to someone who is suffering from mental illness. So they feel ashamed of talking, of seeking help. They start isolating themselves. Because they're isolating themselves, they don't go and get help. This continues into even opportunities to go to work and social interaction and education. Even here in a developed country, there is an act, as a matter of fact, that enforces employers to make sure that they don't discriminate, mentally unwell patients. So stigma continues. They get bullied. Some even to the extent of physical violence and harassment. And whoever is having this problem with mental illness, getting all this stigma, they start self-doubt. Sister Sharifah talked about that. So for anyone out there who is experiencing a mental illness, please make sure that this does not put you up from getting help. Yeah, go and get help. Don't believe it. Don't hide away. Try to connect with others. Like I say, if it is, if you think that you cannot get help from your close relatives, which to be honest, you should be the first point of contact. But if you can't for any reason, then please reach out to other people. And never define yourself with the illness. I'm mentally unwell, so I can't do this. No, you can. Then for others, what can we do to help fight discrimination or stigma? Let us embrace mentally unwell people. It is exactly like a physical illness. It is exactly like a physical illness. Everyone in 4 of us can be affected. If, it can be your brother, it can be, your mom, it can be yourself. So please, let us help these guys. Let us help people who have been attested with this illness. Let us help them go and seek help. Let us listen to them, sit with them. Inshallah, we will get somewhere. We will get somewhere. The barriers will be lifted, because the barriers have been there for a long time. Stigma dates way back, centuries and centuries back. So please let us not be so backward and continue using this stigma today. Let us help our loved ones so that they can get the help that they need. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brother Siraj. Sister Sharifah, is there anything that you'd like to add that we haven't covered? They are just a couple of minutes left of our program today, but if there's anything that you haven't that you think is absolutely one not to let drop, please do share it.
I would like to tell my dear parents to watch your words. You think a word as to you when you're saying it, maybe if you're having a bad day or no gambo mwana. For you, you're saying it out of frustration, you're saying it out of anger, but it has damaged that child. Most of the children who come in do not tell you that I saw this happen, I saw mommy and daddy do this. No. They were told. in the heat of a moment, you will tell the child, you will never amount to anything. Please watch your words. Watch your words. I know there is a saying in Uganda where they say that olulimi lutonzi, and I think I still want to come to believe that this is actually true. What sometimes you tell your child, because you're supposed to be the person they come to. You're supposed to be the person that they feel the safest with. So whatever you tell them, they believe it. They will believe it. They'll start to feel, okay, but mommy said, so ask your child. There's a child I asked that, what do you think of yourself? What's the first thing you would say about yourself when I ask you, what's the one thing that you know about yourself? And the child told me, he's 7. He told me, but I'm a naughty child. And I asked him, why would you say that? And he's like, but that's all my mom and dad tell me, that I am naughty, I'm naughty, I'm naughty. So imagine this child defines themselves as naughty. But guess who has told them this? Guess who has planted this belief in their minds? The parent. So when the child starts to be naughty, the parent will keep wondering, but why is this kid naughty? Well, guess what? You built this in their mind. So they think it affects how they feel, and it affects their behavior. So this will be my last message to everyone out there. Everybody is going through stuff. If you feel like you are not in the right mind to handle a talk with your child or an argument, or if you feel like you need to take some time out, please do so before you speak to your child. Be kind. Practice what you want to see in your child. Like I said, model that behavior. Be kind. Speak with kindness. I know it seems unrealistic, but even with me, I am learning. I am unlearning so many things. So many things I grew up thinking they were okay. I am unlearning them, even with my child. There is someone who was in my home, and I told my child to clean up. And he asked me, Mommy, can I first finish my game? I was telling him, can you please clean up? And he told me, Mommy, can I please first finish my game? It's 2 minutes. And I said, okay, first finish. And my friend turns to me and goes like, Echichi? And then he tells you that, let me first finish my game for 2 minutes, then I stand up and I clean. In my head, I'm like, Amani de Atia. All I am doing is giving my child a chance to be vocal. You know, I don't want to be a dictator. I want my child to also know that so like if it were her, I would have imagined the things she would have said to that child. But what are you doing to your child? It is very important to watch what you say. These children pick up a lot from what we do, what we say to them, how we treat them, and what they see from us. So that will be all from me. Assalamu alaikum. I am so happy I got to be here. Brother Siraj, I've learned a lot from you. And you are not lying about the stigma. As much as we have a few of counseling practices here, some of my clients, when they find me in public, they ignore me. And then they'll drop a text after and they go like, Hajat, I could not talk to you. We're going to meet in Navy Zero. And I'm like, everyone has problems.
Yes.
You who has come to therapy are smart enough to know that you need help. But we are all struggling with something. So for me, counseling is a saving grace. It's not a form of, something to define that you have a problem or in chamu. Who doesn't have problems? You are seeking help, meaning you are way better than the ones who just sit with their problems and continue being toxic. So I understand. So this was very beautiful. I'm so glad I've learned a lot from you today. And thank you for everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much to our guests, Sister Sharifah Namusisi and Brother Siraj Njuki. It's been absolutely eye-opening on many fronts. I hope, and I pray, at least personally for me it has, but I hope it's been the same for our guests and as well as our participants. But the key things that I take from this are communication is important, to identify when we need that help and assistance, and perhaps to share notes between parents and teens or children from a very early age. Some of these lessons need to be taught from as early as the word go with the children, so that they grow up with healthy habits of communication, of relationships with their creator, and being realistic and accepting the conditions or the situations that we're in, or perhaps the way we've been created and the status we've been put in by our creator. So accepting it and then allowing to move on without us being bullied for those things that we cannot change. And then seeking help, and seek help through counselors and through the mental health professionals. But I think this is just a beginning of a conversation. It shouldn't stop here. We should actually go off and carry on the conversations and help each other, because as we've said, in Uganda, the statistics show that the professional help is very, very far away. So we need to help each other before we can rely on the professional help, so that we can prevent some of these issues from escalating to the case where we need the professional help. Inshallah, I pray that we benefit from what we've discussed, that Allah preserves the good that was in it and protects us from any evil that was mentioned here today. I do apologize for any hiccups with technology, but alhamdulillah, it's not the technology that we sell. We sell the conversations and the discussions which are beneficial. So thank you very much for your attendance. And again, to our special guests, Siraj and Sharifah, Jazakumullah khair. May Allah increase your knowledge and expand all routes and means to the recording of this program will be available on YouTube. I've shared the link in the chat, but I will also share the link once the video is up via the same WhatsApp channels that were used to communicate and inform about this session. Do please keep tuned to our programs. Inshallah, we'll have more programs coming up. Today, we've tackled mental health. The teens have asked for guidance in career, in doing business, handling business, all sorts of things. So inshallah, in parenting even, we've had some questions around how to parent, and marriage as well. So we'll keep the guests, the special guests coming in order for us to be able to balance our Deen and Dunya in the best way that is pleasing to our Lord at the time that we meet him. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And with that, we'll end with the dua. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.